is a gentleman named Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a member of the Braintree SOS group up in Braintree, Massachusetts. And I feel like a priest up here. And another thing. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I think it's important for me to know, well, this is an open meeting. We're to carry the message of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous here tonight, hopefully. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't know anything about alcoholism. And I heard a lot of warnings that my parents talked about. And I know they were well-intentioned today, but they were very much misinformed for what they told me about alcoholism and life. It was nothing but, looking back at it, was all predicated on fear. And so when I picked up a drink of alcohol and drugs, I was primed to go. And the one thing alcohol and drugs did for me that nothing else in the world did at that time was made me feel good. Up until that point in my life, I was just a scared little kid looking back at it in hindsight. I heard a guy talk about it one time up here, and he talked about being John Wayne on the outside and Wally Peepers on the inside. And that's basically the story of my life. Anytime I was faced with fear, I tried to fake through it. I wouldn't want to admit that I was afraid. And until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and found out that that was my problem, my basic problem anyway. I found out later on that my real problem is that I had a fear of God second to none. But that came after a while of being around Alcoholics Anonymous and being involved with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was sitting down here tonight and I know I was going to be the first speaker, so I was starting to get into a sweat. And as I sat there, I said to myself, well, I got to think of something, and nothing came to my head. And what came to my head after that is, why don't I try to turn this over to God? And basically, that's my whole story about sobriety. I've always seemed to have to get backed into a corner before I would turn to my higher power for help. I do it my way. I think I do it all the time. Until I get back into the corner and start to realize, no, this isn't the way to go. I know the most motivating thing in my sobriety today is one thing, and that's pain. And I've tried to avoid it my whole life. I've tried to avoid it even with my kids. Try to, not let them feel the pain. Jazz had a book we were reading it this morning talked about money and stuff, and about a focus on the money and how, we'll leave it to the kids, help them out, right? And it started to dawn on me at that time there, and that's the whole thing, always avoiding pain until I came here. I tried to do it with drugs. I went to a psychiatrist for 8 years, and I tried to do it that way until I was faced right to my face with the idea that alcoholism was my problem. I never went anywhere. When I first came around Alcoholics Anonymous, I was brought here by a fellow that was my brother-in-law, Tony. And him and I didn't like him that much, but I had to admit one thing. I hate this, anybody I don't like, I hate to see them getting along in life, believe me. And he came to Alcoholics Anonymous before I did. And I knew he had a problem, but I didn't think I had a problem. And I noticed one thing I know now, anyway, looking back at it, there isn't a stupid alcoholic in the world. And I noticed it with him. He came to AA and there was a change in his life. And it was for the better. But I figured that was him and I was me, But he was to bring me to AA about a year and a half later. And I remember coming into the the group that night. It was a Thursday night. Must have been in February anyway, so back in 1980 now, it's a long time ago. And I remember walking in, and had gone to a psychiatrist for about, as I said, for about 8 years, and I thought I was learning all sorts of good things about myself, but not, looking back at it, I went for the pills. And I said to myself, walking into AA, I says, I've been going to a psychiatrist for about 8 years. Maybe I could help a few of these people here tonight, And that's where my head was. I came here and I was to run into the most important person I ever met in my life. I didn't have a clue this fellow was going to speak next jazz, and he was talking to me, and I was going on telling the tale of woe, the guy in work, my wife, my mother-in-law, blah, 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 blah. All the stories, on and on and on. And he says, well, maybe, Dave, if you stick around here, you won't have to go back to the mental institution they just released you from, And I immediately sat down and got resentful. Jesus, did I hate to hear it. I hated the truth. I wanted to come around here and do my own thing. I wanted to find out how you could be sober and still be miserable. And that would be my way. Hold my negativity. And I was around here a short while, and up north, he does down here too. Jazz runs an AWOL program, which was a 16-week in-depth study of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, as it is in the big book. And I got involved with that. I remember we went in a room, there was probably 35, 40 people in a circle. They were using a little red book. And I said to myself, what am I going to get into? Back in my head, I said I was going to this high-priced psychiatrist downtown, and how are these people going to help me? And it was always that way. What's in it for me, At that point there, I started to learn about God and how to approach God, how to learn how to pray. I was brought up with religion. I had 12 years of religion, and I knew everything about what it was to know about religion, but I had no friendship with God whatsoever. My attitude was always he was out to get me. And at that meeting there, I started to see there was a lot of other people who felt the same way about God. And today, the most important thing in my life today is my relationship with God. Of course, I don't think he likes me a lot of times, but I know today that, he cares about Dave today. Up until, I think as far as back as my drunkenness, I know drunkenness today is nothing more than the absence of God in my life. A loving God, I should qualify that. The big difference between the God I brought here and the one I know today. Does anybody in here tonight that if you're having any trouble with your sobriety, if you're new into sobriety, I was thinking about when I was walking in here tonight, I was getting anxious about speaking, and I was thinking about how afraid I was when I walked in my first meeting. Man, I just wanted to turn around and go. For a long time around here, I just always wanted to run. And I know here, I'm standing here for one reason. I used to think because I went to 3 meetings a day, and I did this, and I did the steps, and I did that, and everything else. But I know one reason I'm standing in front of you people tonight is but for the grace of God. It's as simple as that. At this point in my sobriety in my life, I realize I don't have anything much to do with anything. I'd like to think that I had something to do with something, but really. And I know one thing, that if, as I said, I've been involved with the AWOL now for 30 years. And I really enjoy setting up and taking, getting it ready. Because it might be a selfish thing, but I see people that come to that program anyway, a lot of times, that have never got involved with the steps. People with 20, 25 years sobriety. And I see them come there, and they have an attitude change after being around this program for 25 years. And that really turns me on. You know, I like to see that. And it reinforces myself as far as my beliefs as far as this program and the 12 steps. And I'm going to get back to this, and I'm going to sit down. I got involved with meditation about 4 or 5 years ago. That was after being around the program 25 years. I used to fool around with it, but never seriously. And it's probably the second most important thing in my sobriety is the meditation. When I can sit down in the morning and take time out and be alone with God and try to get some kind of direction to what He would want me to do during the day. It's fantastic. Anytime during the day, if I get excited or if I start losing it, I can sit down and get myself back together, so to speak, getting closer to God. Really, if you're new here tonight and you're wondering what this is all about, it's okay. I've wondered for a long time. Now I know I don't know what it's all about, but it's okay. That makes sense. But if you're new here tonight, give yourself some time around this program to see if it was a change in your life, really. If you feel like going to drink today, why don't you wait till tomorrow? Because tomorrow it might happen. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for having me, and I'm going to sit down and thank you very much.
We're going to have Chris B. come up and read the traditions.
Good evening, I'm Chris Boucher, I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Gonna have Chris Kelly come up and do the chips.
Hi everybody, my name is Chris Kelly, I'm an alcoholic. Here at the Fourth Dimension Group we have a chip system to recognize lengths of sobriety. The first chip we offer is a silver chip, 24-hour if you want to try this new way of life or if you're returning. Red for 1 month. That's Vicky, everybody. And we have a gold chip for 2 months. Buddy, all right. Green for 3 months. Blue for 6 months, anybody? Purple for 9. And then we have poker chips for 1 year, or multiples. All right, thank you.
Okay, and now our second speaker, Jazz from Clearwater, is going to come up.
This thing here is a new friend I met last year, and very close to me. My name is Jazz, and I'm an alcoholic. And when I admit to the fact that I'm an alcoholic, I accept the fact that I have a disease. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous is about as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a bum, I'm not bad, I'm sick, or I was sick. I'm not actively sick at this point. You know, I don't want to get into a big drunk-a-log. They bore me to death, and I don't want to bore anybody here. But I'll tell you quickly that I drank for about 18 years. I picked up my first drink when I was 14. I was in the Army when I was 17. I was in the stockade when I was 18. I got out when I was 21. I decided to go to college, and I signed up over Northeastern. I went to the local tavern to tell my friends about it, and I stayed there for the next 11 years. You know, I had some good times with alcohol, and I don't need to remember them any more than I need to remember the bad ones at that level. But to make a long story short, I had a good job, I made big money, and I stole more money than I made. I was married, I had a family, and I was involved with the union on the job I had, and I had a tendency to need a drink at that time, and when I needed a drink, I caused a strike. You know, and I went on a drunk, and that went on for a few years, and I got terminated. They sued me for $50,000. I didn't happen to have it at the time, and I had long since been separated from my family, and I was living with my mother. I was now 28 years old, and I figured, what the hell are mothers for if they're not there to bail out their drunken sons? And somebody talked to her. She was never an Al-Anon, but she had a beautiful Al-Anon mentality. Somebody told her to tell me to get out. And I did. You know. And for the next 4.5 years, I was on Skid Row. Now, I don't know if anybody else has been on Skid Row, but I was on Skid Row, and that's why I'm here. You know, I came to a point in my life where I lost everything. I was in and out of jail. I did time in the fruit farm in the VA hospital in Jamaica Plain. What else was I doing? There was no detoxes in those days. In those days, I lived in South Boston. It was local. Everybody knew everybody, including the judges, you know. And, they timed you. You know, the first time you get arrested for drunk, I used to get arrested for blocking sidewalk traffic on the main drag. I'd sit down, take a nap or something like that, you know. So they put it on what they call it? Put it on hold. The second time they give you a $5 fine, and the third time, if you didn't pay the $5 fine, you went to Charles Street Jail for 10 days. And in those days, I'm dating myself, I said there was no detoxes, so they use a paraldehyde to get you off the sauce. I don't know if you ever had paraldehyde, but I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know, they give you a little cup like that. It was ether and alcohol, that's what it was. You know, you took a shot of that out like a light for 12 hours, you know, and that didn't work. So finally I got to the point where I ended up with Bridgewater State Hospital. That sounds nice, but it was a jail. And I'm a city boy, I'm a street rat. And, the judge said to me, Jazz, we better send you to Bridgewater Farm. And I said, you know, doesn't sound bad. So we got off the main highway, we took a left, and just as about a quarter of a mile up the road, there was the barbed wire. I said, oh my God, you know. I got interviewed, and my friend there, Joan, she was working at Bridgewater at the time. And I think she interviewed me because somehow or other, with my interview, I was never in the country in my life. And they put me in the piggery. And there's a pig in there, God, they was big as Dave. And I'm sitting there saying, no way, Jose, right? So I ended up getting in a beef with the guy, and make a long story short, I got in trouble there, I got out. And I was taken to the courthouse, and they told me that if I didn't get some money up to the courthouse for my kids' non-support charge, I was going to go to Deer Island, which was another prison out in the water, and I owed them 1 year to 2 years, and I didn't want to go there. And I went down to the local tavern. If you're an alcoholic, you know, when you're active, you know where all the lawyers are, and you know, anybody you need to talk to, doctors, you know, anything like that, jobs. You go to the tavern and talk to somebody. Of course, they're all on a nut too, but that doesn't count, see. And this guy told me there was a guy down the roofing company that he said they hires drunks like you. And I got very indignant. I said, drunks like me? You know, I'm just trying to get the day in, you know. And down I went, and that was my introduction to AA. And boy, didn't I hate this place. You know, geez, didn't I hate it. I never saw anybody with no class like I met here in AA. They were talking about throwing their wives out airplanes and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm saying, I could understand why they went to jail. They were all squealing on themselves. And, you know, I heard a lot in those days about 90 days, 90 meetings in 90 days, which I did. In December that year, I thought I learned enough about alcoholism to be able to handle it, you know. And so I went out to do a little bit of experimenting. That lasted 6 days. And that 6 days, anything I had was gone. I was back on the weeds, under the smoking weeds. We used to sleep in the weeds. They call them the weeds. You know, the cardboard army, you know, everybody slept in a cardboard box, you know. And somebody did a number on me. They punched me out somewhere along the line. And but for the grace of God, my sponsor came down and found me and took me back to my mother's house. And you know, the first 90 days when I was here, it was always, oh, why do I have to do that? Or how many times do I have to do this? It was all part of my defiance system. You know, that subtle defiance where if you're out there tonight and you're not interested in sobriety, I know you're not listening to me, so if you want to, you could take a nap or do something, you know. But no, it's defiance, it's denial. You know, this time I didn't. You have to do this, how many times? You have to do that, how many times? You know, we didn't get it so much then, but in those days, you didn't hear a whole bunch about the steps. In those days, they were more concerned with the traditions. They were very concerned about their anonymity. I got sober, and I celebrated my anniversary December 7th, two weeks ago, and I'm in my 49th year of sobriety. And I have experience here. And the first 10 years I was here, I did just that. I got up in the morning, I asked God to help me, you know, and I had a sponsor. No, a little bit, not a whole bunch of sponsors, just enough to keep me honest. I went to 9 meetings a week. And I got on my knees at night and I thank God. And I did that for 10 years. And I'm from out the part of Boston, and I spoke all over New England. I spoke going south. I spoke in Canada, and you would not believe what I was like. I would get up here and say, these poor jerks, to myself, look at them out there, I hated it. I prided myself in the fact that I could tear my mother's telephone out the window, pull it right out of the wall. I was a wise guy. I could break a window with my fist and not get cut. I could swear at ladies. And I apologize to those people now, today, that I tried to help the wrong way. And I was invited to speak at an anniversary in the Archery, was it Arch Street Day? Arch Street, a well-known church in Boston, church similar to this. And it was strange, I thought it was strange because I had a thing about church and priests, etc., etc. Because just before I went on the nut, this priest, rightfully so, encouraged my wife to throw me out and have me arrested. And damn it, she did. So it was his fault. So that's the attitude I came in with. I knew there was a God, positively. I pray every night for the people that put the fear of God into me when I was small. I would not believe the fear I had about a higher power. It was awful. When I went in the Army when I was 17, I got up for church. I used to go to church about five times a week. That's how frightened I was not to go. And I went to church and everybody else in the barracks was asleep. And I'm saying, Jesus, what's going on here? So I walked down to the chapel knowing full well when I come back, most of them were going to be half dead. And when I come back, they were still snoring. It's the last time I went to church for many, many years. And when I went to this meeting, Whitey, Kildare, or something his name was, he's the one that asked me to speak at the anniversary. And he introduced me to Henry. And I was crackers, honest to God. I really believe, even today, I really believe I would not have got drunk. But I knew I was going to be in the funny farm. I knew I was going to get committed. I had no doubt about it in my mind. And I was talking to him, never met him before in my life, blah, 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 blah. And he says to me, how are you doing? You asked me why I believe in the grace of God. I said something to him that I've never said before in my life. Lousy. I was faking AA. Years ago, the told us, if you want to know how your sobriety is, check what you're doing in your kitchen. How's your life in the kitchen? If you've got a family, ask them. And if you're alone, you're pretty sure you got one. Problem, that is. And I didn't go by that. So I was ready to throw up emotionally. And I was swearing, I was effing this and this will be, and blah, 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 blah. And back comes Whitey, and he says to me, how you making out with Father Henry? I said, oh, geez. So he offered to counsel me. And he turned out to be what I consider a friend. And secondly, is my spiritual advisor. He turned out to be a good friend. And the deal with him was, if you want to talk to me, you have to agree to do the 12 steps. And I said, I don't know. He said, that's up to you. I said, okay. And I've been crazy about the 12 steps ever since. Positively, you might say I'm a fanatic about them, and I don't really care what you say about them. They save my emotional and spiritual bacon. I'm not here to tell anybody to take the steps. That's not of my business. I'm not here to tell you to go to meetings. None of my business. I do not get caught up with personalities. I'm here to give you a message Right now, I'm going to start in the middle of the 12th step. I believe because of the steps, I have had a spiritual awakening. Because of the 12 steps. Actually, it's 11 steps. And because I have a spiritual awakening, I am obligated to carry the message of the 12 steps. You know, if you're having troubles, if you're in a negative frame of mind, it's my opinion that a step out there that you're not practicing. This is not a program for me. This is not a program of 12 hours of discipline or 12 hours of practice. 7/24. You know, before I came here tonight, I don't do anything in my life that I don't sit down. Me, Joan, and Dave sat down in my house for 15 or 25 minutes before we came here, and we meditated. And the general idea was we were to meditate to tell somebody out there what a wonderful, fantastic program this program is. I am not telling you to like it. I'm not telling you to do it. I am telling you that it's here. I pray to God I do never get back the audacity for me to stand up here in all my sobriety. I've got it made. I got more money than brains. I got 2 houses. Physically, I have got it made. And I come in here minus 20. And I pray to God that tonight somebody's in here and they're minus 5. And let's say because Dave said something or whoever he had participated in this meeting, we can get you to +1. Imagine that. Well, you might. How many people here said, "Don't ever ask me to speak," and kept that promise? How many people here said, "I just think I'll drop by once in a while," and we're still coming here? This program works. I admitted I was powerless over alcohol, and for 10 years I didn't drink. I did not consider the second part of the first step, that my life was unmanageable, and is today. You know, and this, if you think about the 12 steps, they put us in the bucket, then they pull us out. That's nice. I can't drink. My life is unmanageable. Where do I go from here? You know, well, you might try what we do. What's that? We find a power greater than ourselves. Uh-oh, here we go. You know the glitch? You know, when I used to go to the Salvation Army, and you got to sing a song to get a hamburger. You know, there's always a deal, if you will. You know, so when I hear the second step, they say, "Oh no, this isn't. I don't have the higher power today that I had years ago. I came in this program with somebody else's higher power. I know the gift they gave me, Jazz. What? You can develop your own. Oh, imagine that. I can develop my own higher power." And he was kind of nasty in the beginning because I had to justify my negative behavior, you know, but we worked it out, you know. And so if I make the decision that I'm going to turn my will and my life for the care of this higher power, the third step says I came to believe that a higher power could restore me to sanity. Wow. What's sanity? You know, that's up to me. My sanity tells me that I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't bite my fingernails, I don't overeat. All of these things called character defects I do not entertain. You know, so if I find out what I have to do and who I have to give it to, I have to find out what is it. We're at the 4th step. The big book tells me I am selfish and self-centered. That's our basic problem. We're selfish and self-centered. And I found in my experience, myself included, the bigger my ego got, the more I denied being self-centered. You know? So I have to make a list of character defects. And not a list of what I did because of the character defects. It's a list of character defects that, if unattended, keep me doing what I do. My biggest character defect was alcoholism. Alcoholism. Now I got this list. First list didn't count because I used it to badmouth myself. I didn't say I had a character defect. I said I'm this, I'm that, oh this, that, the other thing. No. We want to find out why you that. Why are you that way? You know, I steal because I'm a cheater. You know, I was a liar. But most of all, it was to myself. My alcoholism, by me getting involved with alcoholism, I cheated myself out of a pretty good life. You know, I got 3 kids, and they decided they don't like me. 3 of them. They don't even remember me. When I got kicked out of the house, I had 3 of them. You know, first Christmas I could sow was just about this time, 49 years ago. Somebody said, why don't you go out and see if you can make amends? So, 2 $1 toys. I didn't have any money. I stole them. And but for the grace of God, I asked my brother to drive me down because I didn't have a car. And I knocked on the door, and, you know, the War Department's there, and she could care less if I was sober or dead, you know. And I went down before that. You know how when you knew you wanted to clean this all up in a hurry? I went down, I was sober about 4 days. And, you know, I was gonna wheel and deal with it. You know, I'm all set. She said, look, the only time I want to see you is when you're behind bars. But, so my sponsor said to me, I don't think you better go back for a while. But I didn't listen to him. I went back for Christmas. I figured, you know, she might give me a gift. You know what I mean by a gift. You know, hi, honey, one of those gifts, you know. Yeah. Opened the door. My daughter, who's the middle, she runs across the room, throws her arms around my brother. And it says, hi, Daddy. And I didn't drink. That's when I knew. I didn't drink. Did I cry? You bet your butt I cried. Then I still blaming God. What'd you do to me now? You set me up so I could take a bang. But I didn't drink. Didn't drink. Do you know now why I believe in God? Yeah. I haven't got them back yet. My son's sober 25 years. He just doesn't like me. I almost went to jail trying to make him like me. You know, and I now concluded, but for the grace of God, they had no reason to like me. My track record doesn't fit into it. And that's okay. Is it good? It's okay because I've accepted it. And I believe in my life, acceptance is the solution. So why make this list? Now I got to go what I thought was confession. No. I have to go to ventilate. I have to go to prove to myself and to the people around me and to my higher power that I am willing to do anything to stay sober. I do all right with it. You don't hear much talk about the 6th step, where we become willing to have these removed. Oh my God. How many people here are willing to have your character defects removed? You know, go back to the 3rd step. It says, I don't have to really do the best I can. All I have to do is be willing to try. If you're out there and you're doing the best you can, I don't care who you run into, including me, do not let me tell you you're not doing good. If you are doing the best you can, if the best you can do right now, if the best you can, say it right now, if the best you can do is, please God help me, amen to it. It's a start. We all need to get a beginning. You know. And if I become willing to make amends, we only have, we got 5 prayers in the big book. I'm not going to tell you go to meetings. I'm not going to tell you to get a sponsor. I'm not going to tell you to ask God for help. I'm saying those are all important, but they are not the main key of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you read the first 164 pages of the big book and you count the number of times it says God, spiritual awakening, higher power, it comes over 200 times in 164 pages. They must have been serious about it. The big book doesn't say if you don't go to meetings, you get drunk. It doesn't say if you don't have a sponsor, you get drunk. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but big book says we get drunk because we never grew enough, what? Spiritually. People say to me, oh, you're God conscious, you bet your butt I am. If you go to page 45 in the big book, what does it tell us? It tells us that they warned us when they wrote the book that people are going to frown upon us talking about a higher power. That's too bad. It also says up forward, if you want what we have, then you do the same things we do. The problem is we don't tell people what we do. I do the 12 steps. What is any more insane than that after the end of the meeting we say, keep coming, it works if you work. So I know a guy, I met a new guy 2 weeks ago. What the hell are we talking about? It works if you work. I said, they probably meant read the big book. Study it. And the 7th step says, I am now willing that you should have all of me. Good and bad, I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. And it works. I haven't gone a day in the last 35 years where I haven't said the 3rd and 7th step prayer every day of my life. It doesn't say ask God for help. If you're driving a truck and you want a lumper, you ask him for help. He's not my lumper, he's my saving grace. Step 8 says that I'm willing to make amends. Was I? No. Was I willing to try? Sure. When I tried, did I screw it up? You bet your butt. But I did it. And every year, little by little, by little by little, I became a good guy. I am the best thing you're going to meet this week. In here. In here. And I mean that. If I could get my ass in California, I'd be in pictures. This is a serious program. This is not a program of staying sober. The big book says that alcoholism is a symptom of an underlying cause. What's the cause? Character defects. We're coming up into my higher power's birthday, if you will. I don't want to say the word, but you can say Christ because Christ is in the big book. But they don't like to hear about God. We don't like to hear about God. Oh my God, you don't like to hear it. Then the book says if you don't want what we have, tell them to go somewhere else. We should not, according to traditions, change this program because somebody is dissatisfied with what we do. We should even consider it. What the hell are we coming for when we are the miracles of the world? And somebody said, well, I don't like to do that. Oh, well, maybe we shouldn't do it. No. Too bad. Next line, not the next line, a little further down the paragraph. If you're not sure of yourself or what you want to do, go across the street and have a few drinks and see how you make out. We will be here hopefully when you get back. Don't say that. The book says it. Not me talking. I'm talking about the book. I make amends wherever I can. If I can't make amends, I accept the fact I did the best I can and I'll catch you later. I'll come back later. I come back with my family for the first 20 years I was sober, and every time I did, I got aced, according to me. So that means the first 9 steps, we clean up our act, yada, yada, do, boop, 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 and now we come to 10, 11, and 12, what some people call the maintenance steps, where I to have the right, the power, the common sense. At the end of the day, when I go home, I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to inventory my day. And if I hurt anybody intentionally, then I have to make amends. I am willing to say I'm wrong. That doesn't mean I'm going to beg you or plead with you. I simply have to say I'm wrong. The book says anything you read about alcoholism, our biggest problem when we start to get in this program, we start to smell our you-know-what, we start wearing our you-know-what, the secrets. I'm thinking about drinking, but I better not say anything because they'll think I'm a bad guy, bad girl. No, you're not a bad girl, bad guy, you're an alcoholic. You are getting the beginning of a relapse if you don't do something about it. I'm not talking about a drunk relapse, I'm talking about a spiritual, emotional relapse. The big book says that we think our problem is a problem of the mind. And the only thing that can change the problem of the mind is a higher power, ABCs. We can't, God can. The catchphrase here is if we seek him out. God's not going to come to us. The biggest act of humility that I could put in my life is for me to get on my... Anybody here ever in trouble when you first started getting on your knees? Oh, I get on my, Joe Lewis, John Wayne. I don't get on my knees for anybody. I'm John Wayne attitude until my sponsor told me, you got to watch out about that John Wayne attitude. I said, why? Because he kisses horses. This is not a wise guy program. This is a program of generosity. And the generosity, for me, has to come from me, from my being, for what I am, not for what I got. I'm here to tell you that this is positively the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't say believe me. I didn't say believe me. It tells us in the big book, if we're going to work with newcomers, they're so strict in those days. They give him the big book, tell him to read it before he goes anywhere. Go home and read this book. And when he comes back, ask him, what do you think? What do I think what? What do you want to do? But about what? About what you read in the book. Well, I don't know. Well, read it again and then come back and let us know what you want to do. See, I want to be like you. I really do. I want to be sober. I want to be decent. I don't want to be telling people, young kids coming in here, do the right thing by us. Do the right thing by them. You younger people, you're the body and works. A long time ago, I was a kid. I'm over the hill. And you won't believe how far I'm over the hill. And the only thing I have to do is say, this is a good deal. This is a great deal. Then it comes to the idea that we seek through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. What? Praying only for knowledge of His will. And what? The power to carry it out. It's not my group. It all ends up like Dave said. It is the group, but the group needs to start pushing us in that direction. I do not live on life's terms. I live on God's terms, hopefully. I don't do what the world does. I did that for 17 years, and I ended up a wine bum. Now I do what God wants me to do. I'm clean. I used to weigh 200 pounds. I used to smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day, 20 cups of coffee. I drink coffee, smoke cigarettes, and come up and say, you gotta watch your nerves. Does anybody here know that caffeine is one of the biggest nerve makers in town? I don't do things that put me in a position where I'm going to have to worry about them. I may not look it, but I'm honest. I have trouble saying that. I am honest. To a degree. And it's acceptable to my high up. No kidding. I haven't stolen anything for years. At the end of my drinking, my biggest, bank job was stealing waitresses' tips.